On the previous episode of the Betta breeding series, I released the females into the male breeding tanks. You can see both pairs on each of the adjacent tanks, and I turned off the lights and let them go to sleep. The next day I checked in on them hoping that they would be spawning, because usually they spawn in the morning for me, but unfortunately there was no luck. They were still chasing each other, so I left them alone for a few more hours. Hello and welcome back to Creative Pet Keeping. This is episode 5 of the Betta breeding series, and luckily while I was waiting on the fish to spawn, it started to rain. Now rain is kind of helpful because sometimes it can help trigger spawning. So I opened the window in my fish room and it was crazy because within an hour I started to see some interest in spawning from the pair from the unicorn bucket spawn, which are the Tancho pair. They are cellophane marbles, and here they are starting to figure out how to wrap. For those of you who are new to Betta's breeding, the goal is for the male to wrap the female so that she is kind of in an upside down position and his genitals are over hers, and as she releases the eggs, he will fertilize them in the water, and then as they kind of fall down, they will pick them up and then put them in the bubble nest. When he flips her upside down, she kind of goes into the state of tonic immobility. I don't know if that is the correct term to refer to that, because I know that happens to sharks when you flip them upside down. And what that means is that the muscles relax in her body and she goes into this kind of temporary immobility state or state of inactivity that's kind of similar to hypnosis. I don't think that is the correct scientific way to explain it, but I'm trying my best. I definitely wanted to point that out because it can be kind of freaky to see a wrap happen and then you see the female just sort of act like she fell asleep or she passed out and she's just sort of really out of it. Or some people that have watched my videos in the past have also shown concern, asking like, did she die? But no, you can see she's okay. She snaps out of it and this does not hurt the female in any way. The entire spawning process for this particular pair ended up taking 4 hours, which is quite a bit. I ended up filming about 2 hours of that, but instead of making a 2-hour long movie about the process of the Betta's spawning, I decided to speed up a lot of the footage. This way we can see a bigger chunk of time in a shorter amount of time and see all the different behaviors that they do. Also, when they spawn, they tend to have more failed wraps at the beginning than they do later on. So once they sort of really get the hang of it, that's when I will start to get a little closer with my camera. I may use a little extra flash for some extra lighting so we can see them a little better. But I tend to do everything very slowly because even though I really want to get the best footage I can for all of you, I also don't want to disturb the fish in the process. Towards the end of the video, I will get my camera a little closer and I will use a little bit of gentle flash to illuminate the fish a bit better, and we'll slow down the footage so you can really see the wrapping behavior a lot better. But I also wanted to show you this kind of further back look so you can see not only the wrapping but also all the egg collection that takes place, and also how they kind of fall down to the ground. This is also one of the reasons why you don't want to have a tank for spawning that has really tall water, because these fish have to go up and down, up and down. Even for my spawns, I feel like I could have lowered the water even more. I feel like this is an okay height where they're not putting in too much work to try to go back to the top to spawn and then go back down to pick up the eggs. But if I had them in a tank that was filled with water all the way to the top, they could still potentially spawn and it could be a successful spawn, but it will be very exhausting to constantly do so much work. So by lowering the water, we're just making this a lot easier for these fish. So at this point, I started to take my first steps to kind of try to zoom in. I didn't use any extra lighting here because I wanted to, take it one step at a time. Here I got a little closer so we could see them. And then if I see that they are not bothered or disturbed or don't even notice me, then I could start adding in some flash. And the nice thing about adding some of the extra light is it illuminated this beautiful cellophane female. And cellophane just means lacking pigment. So these fish are kind of sort of transparent where they don't have any pigment. But if you look at the female, you'll actually be able to see all of her eggs because the light kind of really shines through and you can see just how eggy she is, and also see how the male wraps her. Here I wanted to slow down the footage just so you can see how eggy she is and get a closer look at the eggs, because a lot of people ask me where are the eggs in female bettas, and if they're solid colored you can't really see them. So this is one of those opportunities where you can actually see the eggs. And also, this was a totally failed wrap. Look at that, he tried to wrap her head and she was like, dude, what are you doing? What are you doing? Kind of reminds me of the Arnold spawn. We had some funny situations in that one as well. But, you know, for every failure, there's going to be some mistakes, and the fish will learn from those mistakes, do better each time, and figure things out. One thing to notice is you will see them kind of synchronize a lot of behaviors, so they will do a lot of the same stuff together. And I think synchronizing their movement helps them get into kind of the right positioning to wrap, because even in this case where it didn't work out, it takes a lot of coordination to perform a successful wrap. Like, this is not something that's very easy to do, and they will mess up a lot of times. But in this case, he did it right. He's holding on to her a little bit, so he's squeezing just mostly so he can hold on to her so he can fertilize the eggs, but he's not really squeezing the eggs out of her. She's just releasing them on her own. And look at that, boom, we got so many eggs. I feel like that one was definitely a successful wrap. When I mentioned that the female becomes immobile earlier in the video, something similar kind of happens to the male when he releases his sperm as well. If he's not holding on to her properly, see him how he gets kind of stuck in his little curve position, and it'll take him a little bit to kind of snap out of it. I think that's his little moment of inability, but it's okay. Look at him, he perks back up, does his little dance, and he's like, hey girl, I know I didn't do it right this time. I didn't hold on to you the right way, but it's okay. It's okay. Let's try again. And of course, we had to have a moment where I started narrating for the fish. I really can't help myself. I really like to narrate for my fish. It's a weird thing I do, but here we are. I forgot to mention, but one thing that might help you be able to tell which one is the male and the female as they're swimming around, because for me it's really easy because I already know what to look for. But if you're looking at my pair for the first time, they do look very similar. One of the things you can look for is there is a black dot on the fin of the male, the caudal fin, and that's a really quick, easy indicator. Just look for the black dot, and that's the male. And usually the one that's wrapping on top is the male, and then the female is the one that's usually upside down, and she also has the shorter fins. And whoa, once again, successful wrap. There we go, pew pew. I don't know why I had to have that pew pew. This is gonna get progressively more awkward as this video continues. I guess I should warn you now. Oh, also here is a nice shot where you can see the eggs inside of the nest. Totally not trying to distract you from my awkwardness, but it's really cool to see that the female is taking a really active role in helping to catch the eggs and then place them into the nest just as much as the male. Also, I forgot to mention that I know the exact age of this pair because this is a pair that I've raised myself from a previous spawn. So currently they are 2 years old and 3 months. So that would be, I think, about 27 months old. Yeah. And it is considered kind of old for a pair to be spawning. Usually, I think personally, and this is my personal opinion, I think the best time would be between maybe like 9 months to, I would say, 2 years. And then after 2 years, most people wouldn't really spawn their fish. I also don't think it's a good idea to spawn fish that are too young either, because you can technically spawn fish that are as young as 3 months old as long as their sexual organs are mature enough. But in this case, I really wanted to hold off to see if any health issues pop up in these fish. And in this case, they haven't had any problems for this whole time, so I figured it would be worth trying. But I also understood the risks that this will take a toll on this pair and can potentially shorten their lifespan because of this. And that is the unfortunate downside of breeding fish, because it is something that really takes a lot of energy out of them. It can be very stressful for them. So if you have your very own favorite pet betta, maybe it might not be the best idea to try to spawn your fish, because you can technically, not on purpose, but shorten their lifespan or cause them to get damaged through spawning, because sometimes fin nipping can happen. In this case, this pair is right now in great shape. They didn't really fin nip each other at all, so that's very positive. But I think it's important to discuss, all the pros and cons, so we as fish keepers can make the best informed decisions. That being said, breeding bettas is not that bad of a thing. There are just risks involved, and I think it's important to understand those. And it's also important to understand the amount of work that goes into caring for all of the betta babies, which is something that if we have successful spawns, you will get to experience right alongside with me as this series continues. So I hope that you enjoyed this video and that you enjoyed the footage I was able to get. And as I continue to enjoy this relaxing day, I hope that you also have a lovely and relaxing day, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!